What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special live stream of Remembering RJ. Unfortunately, we got the news yesterday that our beloved Rick Jeanneret who has been fighting multiple organ failure for the last several years, has finally succumbed to that and has passed away at the age of 81 years old. It's very sad because as most hockey fans, RJ is more or less the only voice, especially for fans our age. Me and Mark are 35.
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. RJ is our entire childhood.
Yeah.
Whenever you turned on a Buffalo Sabres game, it was Rick Jeanneret. And he helped, at least for me, I speak for only for me, he helped shape my love of hockey overall. Now, obviously, there's other factors, but listening to this man's excitement and enthusiasm on everything, like I would always tell people, he could make a 0-0 game with 10 shots apiece with 5 minutes to go in the third period. He could make that game somehow sound incredibly exciting. And that was the best part about RJ is you would go from RJ to like a national broadcast, and I think most of them outside of like Doc Emmerich were really, really boring. They're so bad. They're so monotone. They're so they don't focus on the game and call with the excitement and passion and enthusiasm that Rick Jeanneret did. And that is why I think everybody loved him.
Well, I mean, how many sports play-by-play men have the connection with not just the team that they call for, but the city itself? Right. Like Rick Jeanneret has been described, like I've been listening all day to radio, TV. It's been flooded these last 24 hours, as it should be. And they've referred to him not only as the voice of the Sabres, but the voice of Buffalo. That's how synonymous he is. And I actually, it was not too long ago on WGR, they had Patrick Coletta on. And he basically made it seem like he was like one of the number one ambassadors of Buffalo.
Yeah.
When people didn't want to come here, and not just for hockey reasons, but for anything, he would talk up the city as he would the team in such a way that you could not be excited about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You wanted to be a part of everything when you heard it through his voice. And I mean, I know you spoke for yourself, but I think I could speak for the both of us that it transcended the game itself.
Yeah.
When I was on the blacktop in my buddy's backyard and we were playing street hockey,
that's all of us.
If there was one kid on the sideline who wasn't playing yet or not playing at all for whatever reason, immediately defaulted to Rick Jeanneret play-by-play call of whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Or you just called it yourself. Like I'm pretty sure I didn't get any better at shooting the puck.
No.
Because I always tried for the top shelf because I wanted to say the line.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say the line.
Yeah. I think I don't know if there's ever going to be, especially for, I think, like our generation, I don't think there's ever going to be a time where we watch the Sabres and don't call a goal the way RJ called it. I still hear it in my head every time the Sabres do it. I say it out loud when I'm watching it with my family to the point where my wife hates me. I scream it the same way RJ did. He scored! Like, I still scream it. Even when he wasn't announcing last year, even the games he didn't announce as when he got older, that's just what it's ingrained now.
It's so iconic. You cannot not hear it in your head. Like, it's probably the most clear-cut voice I hear in my head when I'm watching it. Like, so you know how I feel like it's mostly with baseball, right?
Yeah.
You see guys go to the games, the live games, and they'll sometimes wear the headphones because they want to hear the local broadcast.
Right.
Because they you don't hear a play-by-play when you're at the stadium.
Right.
You want to hear what it's like on the field. I never like that because usually because I'm with somebody, so it's kind of rude.
Yeah,
you don't want to block anyone out.
Yeah.
But like, if I was ever going to do that, I would do it for him Because
100%.
It's exciting to be there
Yeah.
with the crowd, but to watch it live and hear Rick Jeanneret call it, it just amps it up to a whole different level.
It's weird because some of my favorite calls are obviously when I was sitting at home. You can hear not only the crowd roar, which when you go to games is obviously one of the best parts of the game, when the whole crowd roars together and everyone's cheering and hooping and hollering. But also when you are at home, even with friends and family, you can hear the crowd and RJ's call on top of it. So it's like you get double hyped for the same moment. You know what I mean? It has made so many moments that much more special for me, because growing up, neither of us, we didn't have a lot of money. We couldn't go to a lot of Sabres games or Bills games or anything like that. So watching it at home was what we had.
You had to turn off or mute the TV and turn on the radio, even if it was behind or ahead or whatever it was.
You got to listen.
You have to listen to RJ.
You got to listen to RJ's call, and the national, again, when Sabres fans might be the only fans. I mean, maybe I'm just only speaking for Sabres fans, but I feel like we're one of the only fans that would absolutely dread being on net. All the other fans, they want that exposure. Let's get on national television, kind of like football. You get on national TV, you show the whole world what you're all about. I hated national games. I hated them because I could not listen to RJ on the TV, and it had to be behind or ahead or whatever the case may be. But I didn't get you don't get that same effect of, you know what I mean? Like, it's, when I listen, I've learned to like national announcers a little bit more. But again, Rick Jeanneret is one of the only announcers that I've heard where his color commentator, no matter who it is, it could be Rob Ray, it could be Harry Neal, it could be I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, because I listened to him for fucking ever. I cannot believe I'm blanking on his name. But it didn't matter. If an exciting play happened when the color guy was talking, he would just cut him off and just be like, we'll get back to it. It's in his brain's like, we'll get back to it in a second. They don't want to hear you talk. They want to hear me do the game.
Yeah.
And that's the best part. You get national games, and the people are just talking over some of the best plays of the game. And then you don't have that iconic moment of the announcer making that awesome call or whatever the case may be. And it just kind of lessens the moment down. Yeah. And it's so unbelievably frustrating, but Jim Lorenz, there it was. I can't believe I was literally just listening to him today. I can't believe I forgot that. But anyway, it lessens the moment. It brings it down. Like, a good announcer can elevate any single goal, any moment in a game, especially big moments in big games. And that is what makes certain things iconic. You know what I mean? Like the perfect example, the 1980 U.S. Olympic team. 5 seconds, 4. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. Iconic. That made the moment so much better. Yeah. Because of that call, because you could feel it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what RJ did.
Well, that's what he was so good at.
Feel it.
He was so good at, like, the things that he came up with, the things that he said. Again, everyone's stated it,
over
so
and
many times.
Of course.
None of it's scripted. None of it's rehearsed. It's all from the hit, from the heart.
Right.
It's just in the moment. And it's so uncanny how well he was able to bring that emotion that you were feeling right then and there in that exact moment and put words to it. And it's always the right words. It was always the right inflection.
Yeah.
What's crazier to me too is his legacy. He was legendary before he even passed away. He was legendary before he even retired. I mean, think about this for a second. He transcended generations of fans. We're talking grandfathers, fathers, sons, and their sons. Like, we're talking multiple generations of people
Yep.
who've listened to Rick Jeanneret
Yep.
and followed the Sabres their entire lives and got to go to games or stay at home, and they watched with their kids, and then their kids grew up and they just kept it going like that. And I feel bad for the generations that are not going to get him, but he created so many awesome memories.
I think the only cool thing is Rick Jeanneret is now so immortalized in Buff. Like, we're going to tell our kids about RJ, and they're going to listen to his calls, and they're going to be able to get hyped. And maybe that is what helps them fall in love with the game. And you know what I mean? Like, we get to talk about him, and he's literally, like, I mean, the guy's hanging in the rafters.
Yeah.
You know,
how many play-by-play guys can say that
they're hanging in the rafters? Yeah. Man. I don't think you see a lot of local. Now, I could be completely wrong, and if I'm full of shit, by all means, let me know. I mean, throw it in the comments or whatever. It is what it is. But I feel like there's not a lot of local play-by-play guys who have stayed local their entire careers that end up going to the Hall of Fame.
I'm a huge Bills fan. I'm a football fan before I'm a hockey fan.
Yeah.
And I've stated that on multiple occasions. I've admitted that.
Yeah.
But
that's okay.
The only other person that's just as iconic as him is Van Miller.
Yeah.
But for me, the football fan, he surpasses Van Miller.
Yeah.
Like, there you can hear, pandemonium.
Yeah.
Like, you hear that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. You can hear Van Miller in your head. That's how iconic he was too, and how synonymous he was with the Buffalo Bills brand. But for me, Rick Jeanneret is just
he's a cut
above everybody else. And I mean not just here. I mean across the country. Just any sport, any announcer.
For any announcer, too. Like any sport, any announcer that I have ever heard, I don't think I have ever heard anybody that I have generally enjoyed more. And this is me probably being an absolute homer, but I don't think so, because when you look at other teams' fans, right? You go into when the National Hockey League says a little, rest in peace RJ or whatever. You go in there and you see, like, I'm an Islanders fan, but I loved watching Sabres games because RJ was the best.
Yeah.
I'm a Toronto fan, but I turned off our broadcast and watched the Sabres because I love listening to RJ. Like, it's crazy that not only could he transcended rivalries, he transcended geographic, you know what I mean? Like, for every fan, if they got a chance to listen to RJ, they did. And that is it's so cool to have him as our guy. And and I know people who have followed closely probably know this. He had said he had been offered the national to do National Hockey League games across the league and to be a national announcer, and he said no, because I couldn't do it with the same passion that I do.
This is the only place he ever wanted to be.
I couldn't do it with the same.
Out and said that.
Right, I couldn't do it with the same passion that I could with the Sabres, so it wouldn't be the same. And I think that's why I didn't like a lot of national announcers. They didn't, you know what I mean? There wasn't any stake in it one way or the other. Yeah. And that's, probably being a homer, but, I think you kind of want your local announcer to be a little bit of a homer.
Listen,
but
I feel like even, I don't know what anybody else's perspective, when I listen to games, for me, I felt like he gave an equal amount of passion even to the visiting team.
Yeah.
Like, when they made a play and stuff, like, I think it was just hockey for him. He loved the game of hockey.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, he's a Buffalo Sabres play-by-play. When they're doing well, it's amped up to a different level, but he still gave that same kind of passion to the other teams. And I think that's why he resonated so much with other fans too. Like, it wasn't just like,
he scores.
There goes Spezza, he scores, or, the Sabres are down. It's just like a tempered version of whatever it is he normally does for the home team. But I think it's safe to say that the two most electrifying men in sports and entertainment, with a microphone in their hand, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Rick Jeanneret.
Yeah.
That's the level he's on. Catchphrases and all. Who else?
Yeah.
Who else with a microphone in their hand has
better
the
catchphrase.
gift of gab and can come up with so many memorable catchphrases other than The Rock and Jeanneret?
Shooting off the hip too.
Yeah.
Like I know we'll probably talk about it, but the Mayday call. My favorite thing when you listen to RJ is like, well, yeah, you did you make that up the night before? Did you have it kind of, ready to go? And his response was, the guy hadn't scored in 18 games. Why would I think he was going to score at all in this game? And that is the candidness of RJ. And I think the sad thing about RJ going and why he resonated with so many people, especially myself, is all right. Let's get serious for a minute. Let's get personal. I'm a 35-year-old man, and I always made fun of people, and this is true, who cried when people who they didn't know died.
Mm-hmm.
And I cried when Rick Jeanneret, when I heard it. And I didn't cry, but like a little tears. I teared up a little bit, and it was because even though I've never really met RJ, he wasn't a friend of mine.
Yeah.
He was, He wouldn't know me from Bob.
Yeah.
He wouldn't know me at all.
Yeah.
But his personality and his overall,
he's woven into the DNA of all of us.
It's not just
even
that,
if
but
we've never met him.
His whole persona, like he came across as somebody. He was in your living room so often that
he was a part of your family.
He felt like a part of your family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like he was the kooky grandpa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like his personality came through the television.
Yeah.
And
well, you would see it too, like especially during the holidays. How many times would he dress up like a goof at his own expense to make everyone smile, to make everyone laugh? And come on, he enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely.
He
loved every second of it. And that was, like I said, that was my thing. And then you hear certain memories, you hear certain calls, and it brings you. And another reason why I get it now that I'm older, but like the reason why some people might shed a tear or whatever, it brings you back to a moment in time that you remember fondly. You know what I mean?
It's
so
really
it's why it's kind of like
like I said, he's very much woven into the DNA of all of us.
Right.
Whether we knew it or not. But so when I saw it, I told you this, I was just kind of flabbergasted. I wasn't sure what the news was around him because all of a sudden when I go into Twitter, because I'm just randomly checking for news, just see what's going on.
It's X now.
X.
Yeah. I kind of like the rebranding, but it's still
Twitter. But yeah, so I logged in and there was a preseason game. I think it was the Eagles game was going on at the time with the Browns, and that's what most of my feed was about. And then all of a sudden, it like turned on a dime, and I'm like, "What's?" I was like, "What is going on?" So I feel like it didn't hit me right away. And then today, because I knew we were going to be doing this show, I started just kind of going through YouTube as one will do in a situation like this, and then just going down that rabbit hole. And that's when I started getting emotional, is when I started hearing his voice. And then I started going to like the team's official page, and they had all the stuff. I think I don't know. I don't think it was new stuff. I think it was stuff from when he was retiring. RJ's last call, and they interviewed everybody. So then I went through that stuff, and it got even worse for me.
Dude, I was at this game. I gotta tell you, there was a lot of grown men. Thinking about it makes me tear up a little bit now, with tears in their eyes when RJ came out on the ice. Everyone's chanting RJ. Dude, it was so cool. And I'm probably the most happy that I didn't go. I have not, that. I haven't been to a lot of Sabres games, regardless. Whether it's work, whether it's money, whatever the case may be, just in life, I haven't gone to a lot of Sabres games. I also really don't have a whole lot of people that enjoy the Sabres as much as I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it sounds weird, but when my dad passed away, that was like my Sabres buddy.
Yeah.
And I would buy the tickets. I would always tell my dad, like, I'll buy, you fly. Mm-hmm. My dad would drive, we'd pay for parking, we'd get down there, we'd have a fucking a hot dog from the vendor out front.
There's always on the corner, yeah.
Right, because it was, I don't know, $30 cheaper than buying it in the game. And we would do that, and we would go in the game. You know what I mean? So but certain moments I love that I was there for. That was probably one of the most, that game and the first game I ever went to are probably the most memorable games I've ever been to in any sport ever, right? I can't really remember my first on Bills game. I think my first ever Bills game was with like Doug Flutie as quarterback. Actually, I think I remember the last touchdown, but that's besides the point because I'm a sports nerd. But that game, it was just, and the Sabres, their attendance was like 12,000 all year. And of course, you know, the guy, like we say, he's so beloved in the community that Sabres fans came out, sold it out. Of course, there's probably a lot of people in there who spent a lot of money to get there.
Keep in mind how bad the team was at the time. And the home games were rough. Like when you saw it on TV.
They were rough in terms, like I said,
that's the most,
because it just
that's the most that arena had been packed. Like from ice to rafters. I'm sure there were people even standing that were just like they had to be there. So if they didn't have to sit, they didn't care.
I wouldn't care. I would have stood all game long.
That's how much he meant.
That doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's how much he meant to the organization, the fan base, the city. Like the most casual of fans know Rick Jeanneret. Like they might not be huge hockey fans, they might not be huge Sabres fans. It's just because again, we're a smaller metropolitan city, and these teams are very much like they're our identity.
Right. They are a good mixture of what we are.
And again, very little Hall of Fame players, coaches, whoever, very few of these guys can say that they transcended all that like he did.
Right.
He did very much so. Like, I don't think, how many times were you out there playing and instead of saying, I'm Jim Kelly or I'm Dominic Hasek or I'm whatever, you were like, I'm Rick Jeanneret. Check, I'm going to make the call. And I love it because I have so much fun.
For sure, you know that.
I love watching you do your little play-by-play, and I feel like that has a lot to do with him.
Oh, dude,
like, no matter what sport, you always love to do because, again, you're like, I'm sick of listening to these guys. I'd rather do it myself.
This is the reason why. Realistically, when I first went to college, before I dropped out, and then went back again.
Always go back.
I dropped out and went back again. But when I first went, I wanted to go for communications because I eventually wanted to be in some sort of sports radio capacity, which it's kind of dope that I'm doing it now anyway, even though, you know, whoever watches me, thanks for watching.
For the couple folks that are tuning in, we appreciate you.
Yeah, for the couple people, you know, usually I get a couple hundred on my Sabres, maybe even, you know, a couple thousand on a couple of the videos. It's still cool to be able to do it and share my enthusiasm and my passion and to have that and to, like I said, just be able to do it and share it with everybody else.
Yeah.
And have people comment on the videos and just say like, hey man, great job. I love the way you did this or that. This is part of the reason. Like he's part of the reason because I loved his calls so much. Like he made me want to do it. You know what I mean? It's so crazy. I think part of why he's so beloved too is his longevity, man.
Yeah.
Who else in any sport across the world probably can say that they were the announcer for one team for more than 5 decades?
Our whole lives.
Five decades, man.
Our whole lives.
Like literally our whole lives, but
even before that.
You know, my dad's whole life.
Yeah.
You know, it's crazy to think that. Now, I was a little bit older when I really started getting into Sabres hockey, and it's kind of when they started to suck again.
It wasn't until, like, I remember vividly, like, it was their first Stanley Cup run. Like, that's when it really became...
For me, it was a little bit before that, and, you know, I was always wondering why I loved the fighting aspect, which we'll get into in a few. not to foreshadow anything, the fighting aspect of the game so much. And it's probably because when I started watching the Sabres, I think it was like the 95, 96 season. I was like 8 years old. The Sabres had over 100 fights that year. 100, like there was almost a fight. There was more than a fight a game.
Man, if you can't beat them up.
And you know what? It made for great watching. If the team wasn't winning, they were fighting, and it was intense, and it was passionate, and it was in your face. And my God, I was like, and I'm going to do a video about this at some point, but I think that's where the NHL went wrong. They took something that, and I know the people who concussions, all that stuff, whatever. I'm over that shit.
Outside of box lacrosse, it was a very unique thing to the sport.
Right, outside of, in the 4 major sports, it is the most unique part of the sport, and they didn't market it the way that I think they should have, and I think that is where they failed in growing the game to be a lot bigger. Obviously, there's other hurdles, but for people like myself, right, you get drawn into one aspect of the game, okay? I was drawn into the fighting. I loved the fighting. I thought it was amazing. But guess what? They got a hockey fan for life out of it because I started watching games for fights. And then I was like, oh shit, this game is dope. I like watching this game. It's fun. It's fast. They hit each other hard. It's intense. There's goals. There's saves.
Yeah.
There's so much to it. And then you fall in love with the whole game. Obviously, like I said before, he's got a big part to it, but that is where the NHL screwed up.
It takes on a different identity. Like, I challenge anyone to watch these Rick Jeanneret calls. Watch them without listening to him, and then watch it with listening. It's a very different experience. It's a very different experience. Somebody
shared earlier, right, a fight between Rob Ray and Steve Webb. Mm-hmm. And it was, I think, the first time they fought. They fought a couple times. Rob Ray cleaned his clock in both of them. Bad. But he fought Steve Webb. You listened to, and it was perfect. You listened to the Rick Jeanneret call, and it fired you up. Yeah. Every part of it was like, let's fucking go. And then they replayed it again, and it was the national announcers, and I almost fell asleep while I was watching one of the more exciting things in hockey, which is 2 guys bare knuckle fight.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, are we watching this? Were they watching the same thing?
Yeah. You would almost think, because it happens so less frequently now.
Now,
that when it does happen, it would be more exciting. But
right. That you would think it would be so much more exciting.
Yeah.
And it was, these guys now, some of them still do an okay job.
It's just
Jack Edwards. If you're a Boston fan, sure, maybe you like him. I think he's ear cancer. I can't even watch highlights with him, but he has the level of excitement that if he wasn't such a boob, he's got a level of excitement that I can appreciate. At least I can at least appreciate the level of excitement that he has when he's announcing a goal, a fight, a save, and anything that for the Boston Bruins. I hate him just because I think the sound of his voice makes me want to vomit. And probably because he's a Boston announcer, but I really hate him.
I think it's more so the Boston thing that you probably realize.
No, but I respect him. His voice, he's got a very monotone voice, and some of his stuff, you can tell he's genuinely excited, genuinely excited, but it seems a little forced.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like. Like, Rick Jeanneret's almost never seemed forced. Maybe a little bit at the end of his career when he was after throat cancer and whatever. But for the most part of his career, it was never forced. It was never forced excitement. It was always genuine excitement with passion and everything that you would want from a announcer to announce your games. The reason, like, he made it like the next best thing of going to the game was. Absolutely, it was almost better sometimes staying home and watching the game so you could hear RJ talk and call the games.
We were spoiled. Sabres fans were spoiled.
100%. Even the Sabres fans that didn't necessarily, that were older, like my, obviously like my dad, he loved Ted Darling. And
Yeah.
he was like, oh, Ted Darling was awesome too.
Yeah.
But we really did. And it's unfair for me, obviously, to kind of judge the announcers now.
It's such a high standard that we have.
But the bar is set so high. He's got, Dunleavy's got some calls that I was okay with. When Eichel was here, I did like the Eichel Tower. I thought that was kind of clever and certain things. And he's growing on me a little bit. He does a halfway decent job, but it's just not the same.
No,
and I'll be honest, I commend Dunleavy for having the absolute testicular fortitude, is what I'll say,
to follow him.
To follow that act.
Yeah.
Oh my good! How
those shoes can never properly be filled.
Right,
so, yeah.
right. And the person who came in next, there was no way they were going to be able to generate the type of response and passion and excitement that RJ did. I don't think there was anybody on the planet that they could have brought in. So I respect Dunleavy for being the guy to be like, you know what? I will take this hit. I will be the Sabres guy. Even though I might not be everyone's cup of tea, eventually he grows on you a little bit. He's got some good calls here and there. And I think as the season went on, because my thing was, I thought Dunleavy was he sounded more like a national announcer, right? A little bit monotone, kind of forced with some of his, the passion. But as the season went on, I thought that Dunleavy did a better job with, it wasn't forced passion. It felt like he was excited. And that's what, like I said, that's what we all loved about RJ. That mixed with his incredibly unique voice. Yeah. That I don't think anybody could.
That is.
Not to sound weird, but I have recorded myself calling a game before, right? Because I wanted to see what I sounded like. Fuck, I'm dull. I really am, and I can admit that now. But I really am. I am dull. Few do, but I have a very monotone voice when I'm calling games. Oh, he's over the line. Oh, you didn't have that. Not a lot of people have the ability to take the moment and just slowly ramp it up to a climax and then explode. You know what I mean?
It's also
weird, but explode at the top of
it.
But
it's also it's getting lucky. It's general selection, right? Like he was blessed with the perfect voice.
He really was.
Accompanied by his natural personality.
Accompanied by his ability to be able to come up with.
But you can't
master the language.
You can't do anything to make your voice sound as
No. You can't.
No matter what it is you do, your voice is your voice. It is what it is.
Right.
You do the best you can with it, but again, he was so blessed to have all of it. Very few people have all the pieces. He had all the pieces.
Right. Very few people have the personality that he has, have the incredibly unique voice that he has, and has the ability, the ability to think fast, think on his feet, to make the right call at the right time. Yeah. They have the ability to, like I said a few seconds ago, to be able to kind of ramp up the intensity in a play to get to he could almost read the play like a player. He knew when the play was getting to a point where it's time to get real excited, and it seems like only a few people really can kind of understand that.
Yeah. And his feel for this
special.
It's so crazy because he had a feel for the game, not unlike the players.
A player, right.
And it's just you can tell, like you said, he so innately knew when to take. He would have been all right, he crosses the blue line, and he goes, and he knew where
slowly ramped up. You'd be all right, Eichel went over the blue line, Eichel makes a move, and then it just slowly went up and up and up and up.
And you even heard it on those close shots.
The shot!
He goes, he shots it, and then he's back, and he's coming back. Oh, he stole it, he's got it coming back.
Right, it's
it just hit the up and down. It just the cadence, everything was perfect, right on the spot. So I know I'm going to make another wrestling reference, but it fits. Yeah. I know I compared him to The Rock, but when you think about it, he was the Jim Ross of the NHL.
Yeah.
Think back to the Attitude Era and all those iconic moments in wrestling, and you can't imagine them without Jim Ross's play-by-play and his voice and his catchphrases. And it's the same thing with Rick Jeanneret. So what Jim Ross was to wrestling is what Rick Jeanneret is to hockey.
Right. So now that we've been talking about RJ for a few minutes, why not? And of course, we're going to have to do this. There's going to be some calls on here that you all have heard a million times, but I think you guys are either going to love my list or absolutely fucking hate it. Because I think a little bit out of the box when it comes to Rick Jeanneret calls. We're going to go and just between the two of us, what are our top 5 Rick Jeanneret calls and or I guess memories of Rick Jeanneret as far as like the calls that he made. Oh, sup, fellas? What's up? But yeah, how about you start and I'll see if I can. We're gonna play the call on here. Let me know if you guys can hear it or not, real quick.
Okay, so my list is gonna be
start with your 5, and then we're gonna slowly build up.
My list is gonna be your greatest hits. Like I'm the greatest hits album, and Andrew's version is probably gonna be more like your B-sides.
Mine's gonna be a little bit different, but it's different for I would say a different reason. You know what I mean? Like mine hit different for me because of whatever what I like or like the time period it happened or what have you.
So like for me, I'm gonna start out with my honorable mentions and get those out of the way.
Let's do your first honorable mention.
Yeah, my first honorable mention's got to be overtime. Like I can't tell you how many times. Like
we're going to
think of all these great calls that he's made. How many of them were in overtime? It's insane. Like you can't escape that call specifically.
No, his last goal call ever was in overtime.
It's fitting. Who scored it? I don't know. Was Middlestat?
Yeah, Casey Middlestat. It was a game that I watched, and and the Sabres were down late in the third period. I still have it on my DVR, by the way, and I watch it sometimes. I think they were down. If I remember correctly, they were down late in the third period. It was like 2-1, and I'm thinking to myself, like the Sabres in two seasons ago, obviously, they have been magic in just about every single big game that they had played, right? Mm-hmm. So the Eichel game, they played good. And like all the big games that they had played, this, and I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't know if the Sabres are going to be able to pull this one off for RJ, man. I think RJ's last game is going to be a loss. Sabres are down. Mm-hmm. Sure as shit, man. And that's why people started to come back, because that season people could feel it. Yeah. Right? They could feel the corner turning, because in big moments the team showed up and gave them a positive memory. And once again, it
was fitting that it ended this way.
Right. I forget who scored late. I really do, and I apologize. I forgot who scored late, but they score late, and I'm going, get the fuck out of here. They're going to do it again. And then Casey Middlestat with a fucking dude. I was elated. I was watching this game at home, and this might have been one of the best moments for me in this kind of drought era, right? One of the better moments in this drought era that the Sabres are going through, which unfortunately I've said on this podcast, YouTube channel, is the longest in NHL history, which really is depressing. Yeah. But it was one of the better moments for me, because I was like, God damn it, yes. RJ fucking went out, and no, it wasn't a Stanley Cup, but he went out on a fucking W to end his career, and it was just so fitting. And you could, like, again, you could see the corner turning, and it was just like RJ's passing the torch and being like, it's time for you guys to do your thing now. And then, of course, this season they won over 40 games.
So you were talking about, I know they didn't go out in Stanley Cup. Like, I have a feeling like this is gonna be a really nice motivator. I also want to put it out there. If anyone's listening from the Sabres, I guess Pagula Entertainment, like sports entertainment, any one of those, this with the RJ on it, that is an awesome patch that should be worn all year long on the jerseys, all year long.
Yeah, if you make it a special edition jersey, I bet you there's a lot of people that would probably buy it.
Yeah, that should be worn to commemorate. The season should be dedicated to RJ.
Right.
A patch should be put on the jerseys that they should wear all year round. I think it would be phenomenal. Getting back to our list though, real quick. So the other honorable mention call I had is my favorite goalie call of all time,
Which is
call a cop. I don't believe it. He robbed him blind. Love it. Love it.
But which one is your favorite? Did you like the Dominic Hasek one? Or did you like the Marty Biron one? Because both of them were equally fucking incredible.
I love both of them. You almost had. So what's funny was they were talking to I think it was on Sabres Live or whatever with Biron and Dunleavy. Mm-hmm. They had Miller on and they asked him which, like, his save or Biron's save, and even Miller was like you got to give it up to Biron. Like, basically the guy is looking at a completely empty net and no one around, and he takes a shot, and then all of a sudden Biron pops out of nowhere and just makes an astronomically crazy save. And
here, I would say, here's the how incredible.
Yeah.
Like, just listening to it now pumps me up, man. It's so awesome. I can't get over it. I can't believe this man is gone, man.
There's no video on our end, by the way. He just played audio. There's nothing for us to watch, but I can see that play happen. I
can't because I'm playing on my phone.
Cheater.
But if I were to play it on this, you know what I mean? Like, I think anyone who's watched the Sabres knows that call.
Yeah.
Right? They know that call.
All right. So my last honorable mention, and then I want you to
I'll do my honorable mention.
I want you to tell me your honorable mention. So my last one is
people aren't gonna like it.
Roll the highlight film.
Okay.
Love
all right,
that.
That is an absolutely incredible one. I do like that one. And as a matter of fact, now that I look at my list, that is also one of my honorable mentions.
Nice.
Holy mackerel, roll the highlight film. I can, when that is played, I see a Afinogenov in front of the net, tapping the puck between his legs, and then tapping it.
Maxie was just disgustingly filthy with
it. The thing is, there's just so many great calls over the years that it's just, it's hard to only pick. I guess you could pick 5. That's why you got some honorable mentions in there.
Yeah.
But it is fun to, I guess the only silver lining about it is that you get to go back and reminisce.
Yeah.
Like, when RJ passed away, for a lot of people like myself, like we talked about earlier, it was almost like a piece of your family. Whether or not you knew him, whether or not you ever met him, had a conversation, it didn't matter. Mm-hmm. Like, it just didn't matter. RJ was a lot of our just childhood. Like, it was just a piece of who you were as a hockey fan. And now that he's gone, it's kind of like that little piece of you is gone with it. You know what I mean? And that is the tough part for fans like myself, like I said, who and we've talked about this. Obviously, you love football more than I love football, and I love hockey more than you love hockey. That's, you know what I mean? It's just, but
that's why we balance things out.
Right, but we each love both.
Yeah, we appreciate both very much.
Don't get me wrong. I love the Buffalo Bills. Mm-hmm. I will forego sleep to watch Bills games because I work overnights, and on Sundays I only sleep for a couple hours. I got to wake my happy ass up and watch the Bills game, and then I'm hyped up until like I got to go back to work that night, so I only sleep for like 3 hours. And I watch the Bills games, and I do videos about the Bills games, and I love football. But for me, it was always hockey, man. Yeah. And it was the uniqueness of hockey. Like I said, we talked about it. The uniqueness of fighting. Like, in hockey, for me, it was always like, yeah, you can talk the talk, but here you have to walk the walk too.
Yeah. You have to answer for your mouth.
There's no like, oh, I punched him in the face, I got ejected, unless you really hurt him. But like, there was none of that. You want to run your mouth, all right? Let's see what you're about. And I love that.
Not to mention how many.
love that
Not to mention
so
how
much.
many fights that just started because it was fun.
Like
these
I
guys
love
would
it.
just. There was no animosity.
It was their job. It was their job.
But there was no animosity. Half the time they would be like, "What do you think?
Hey,
Let's give them a show. Let's give them. Yeah,
Let's
let's have some fun. Yeah."
Right. You know. Hey, you wanna?
Think of the mental
Wanna
capacity you have to
swear?
have to like be
Right,
like,
right,
I want
right.
you to punch me in the mouth for fun.
Yeah. Right.
I want you to try to bludgeon
Well,
me for fun.
the best way to think about it was when George LaRock was flying here.
Yeah.
When George LaRock was mic'd up the one time, and he said,
I got him.
"Yes." When George LaRock was mic'd up, said, "You want to? Yeah. Square up. Okay. Good luck, man." And then they just dropped the gloves and started fighting.
Yeah.
That's why I love hockey.
Yeah.
More than all other sports.
Yeah.
What made me love football though is it's weird. The older I've gotten, the more I've grown to love football. Is the chess game that is football, right?
Yeah.
So the chess game between the offense and the defense, and sure, there's plays that break down, and there's just disgustingness that happens. But like the chess pieces, is it the pre-snap reads? Are they in cover 2? Are they in cover 1?
Yeah.
Are they playing quarters defense? Where's my fucking first read, second read, third read?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just the chess game that's played between them. It's so cool.
We're obviously
older that I've gotten.
The thing that you would love about hockey is how fast paced it is and how
and it's just always just
going.
It's go,
like I said,
and back and forth.
Football very much is it's more of a mental sport where you're like again,
and it's incredibly physical too.
Checkers versus chess.
Here's the thing. Here's the best way to describe it. Hockey is a contact sport.
Yeah.
Football is a collision sport.
Yeah.
Right. So. And that was what was also fun about it when I was younger too, was the fact that these guys just buried each other, and there were no flags on a lot of these plays.
Yeah.
That was the best part of the game, for me. But
we got off on a tangent, so we're gonna get back to the mention list.
We do that a lot. Sorry,
it happens.
If you're watching, we do that a ton. So some of my other honorable mentions are, and nobody's gonna like this because people got this in their top 5, I'm sure. Is 'tis the season. Fa la 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 Fontaine.
Oh, that's a great one.
One of my favorite ones.
That's a holiday remix because that's not even the original.
I know that is a holiday remix, and that's why it is one of my favorite ones because of course it was Christmas.
Yep.
And an honorable mention, many of you are going to be surprised about, is the Mayday call.
Really?
Is the Mayday call.
Okay.
And the reason why, for me, is because it happened just a smidge before I became a through and through Sabres fan.
Yes, okay.
It happened just a smidge for me before I became a through and through Sabres fan.
So you didn't feel like you could appreciate it as much?
I couldn't appreciate it as much because it is not. It didn't. I can't go back to that memory in my brain and go. I remember this feel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That to me, that's why look. It is iconic.
Yes.
It is probably one of the most iconic calls in the history of the NHL.
Yeah.
That is not lost on me.
Well, so all right.
At all.
So we're talking about it, and you said most people would have it in theirs. I do. So I have it as my third favorite.
Wow.
So here's why. Because we're talking about it, I'll jump right to it. So as you pointed out before, Brad May had not Rick Jeanneret, he hadn't scored in like 18 games or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously for him to score, this just to remind everyone, it's overtime in the second round of the 1993 NHL playoffs against Boston.
Right.
So it's the importance of that goal and the fact that he had been on a drought.
Right.
And then again, like you said, it's just it was just a very natural call. I know it was 93 and we were only like 5 years old or whatever. Like
right.
we couldn't appreciate it.
I wouldn't have been able to appreciate it the way.
But I appreciate it for what it was. And the fact that like later on you got Brad May doing the interview for RJ's Last Call, and he goes, probably my most iconic moment as a player is going to be always and forever attached to Rick Jeanneret because when he goes, when I die and they celebrate me, this is what they're gonna play,
Absolutely.
and it's gonna be his voice that everyone
Yep.
hears. And the fact that it means that much to him and how excited he is that
Right.
that's very much a part of his career, that's another reason why I had it in my top 5.
Yeah, like I said, it's not lost on me the importance of the goal. Now, the cool thing is that he came up with the Mayday thing. Brad May had less than 300 career points in over 1,000 games. Like, he was a decent fourth line player and a very underrated scrapper. But not only, here's the thing, not only was the goal call incredible, the fucking goal itself was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, he undressed a Hall of Fame defenseman and then undressed, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame, but an incredibly good goalie to score an overtime winner in the playoffs. Like, nobody had that on their bingo card, and especially RJ. And that's why that call is so incredibly iconic.
It's Are there 3 more iconic sounds than that blaring horn, the roar of the crowd,
dude.
and Rick Jeanneret saying, "He scored"?
I know, it's incredible.
Those are like
really
some of the most
amazing.
iconic sounds in all of sports.
I would say it's amazing, and right, and it should. You know what? Like I said, it should be. It is one of the best calls in the history of the NHL.
Yeah.
But it's not in my top 5, like I said, because I just can't appreciate it as much as I should.
So let's start with your number 5, and we'll work our way up. So what's your number 5?
All right. Excuse me if I get choked up with this. I'm gonna see if I can find it so you guys can hear it. As Mark is,
I hit the wall.
As Mark is breaking my shit.
Good thing I didn't put a hole in it.
Correct. Good thing you didn't put a hole in it. I'm not very handy.
We'd have to hang up a really different picture to cover that hole.
I have a couple more good things I can hang up. Let's see if I can find it here. This one's a pretty good one. Ready?
Yep.
That is, and I'll tell you why that's in my top 5. Obviously, I said earlier in the show, my father passed away. That was one of my father's favorite goal calls by Rick Jeanneret.
Mm-hmm.
And it was probably right around the time, when I was like really, really, really getting into hockey.
Yeah.
So every time I hear Stu Barnes, I think about my dad.
Yeah.
Every time.
Love it.
And that's why that's in my top 5.
I love that call specifically. It's like absolute bullets.
Yeah, it was.
That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's amazing.
That's one of my absolute favorites, just because it reminds me of my dad, and my dad obviously mixed with RJ. My dad is the one that made me love sports in general, because my dad was a sports fucking junkie, dude. My dad loved sports. And the cool thing was, my dad would come home, and again, we said this earlier, but we didn't have a lot of money, right? So it was kind of good that the Sabres were bad when I was younger, because just the arena wouldn't be full, right? My dad would get home at like 6 o'clock, and he would run in the house, because he would hear it on the radio, because he'd listen to it on the way home, listen to sports talk on the way home. He's the reason why I love sports talk radio, and still do. And he would run in the house. It'd be like 6:15 or 6:30, and the game started at 7. And he'd go, "Hey, buddy, do you want to go to the game?" And I'd go, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, get your clothes. Let's go." My dad wouldn't change out of his ratty ass work clothes, because my dad worked in a warehouse. He wouldn't change out of his ratty work clothes, holes, everything in it. Work shoes, didn't matter. He would throw his lunchbox down, throw his drink down, his coffee down, and I would jump in the fucking car, and we would fucking, well, for my dad it was motoring. Yeah. We would motor down there. We would fly, right? Yeah. And we would park 2 blocks away, and then we would run. Run, dude. We would run to get our tickets so that we didn't miss a fucking puck drop.
Yeah.
That's the coolest thing about it.
I love that story because I don't
fucking
think this generation will appreciate, because even when they're bad, it's still incredibly difficult to get like a last minute ticket.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think anyone can really appreciate how awesome that story is, because like I don't think we could really do that now. I don't know that I could come home on last minute and be like, do you want to go catch a game?
Right.
And then just like make a last minute dash to get there and buy the ticket. And,
right.
Yeah.
And get there and be able to park and run into the game.
Yeah.
And
that's an incredibly difficult task to ask somebody to do nowadays. So the fact that you got to like, I love that that's a core memory for you.
Oh, dude, it's one of the best things ever. Like but that's why the Stu Barnes call, to me, it literally floods all of those memories right back to me. And that's why the Stu Barnes call is in my top 5. He didn't score that many goals for the Sabres, didn't play with the Sabres that long, but it doesn't matter to me because that's what I think about every time I hear Stu Barnes. Every time I hear his name mentioned, Stu Barnes, that's what I think about now because of RJ.
That's awesome.
So
all right, so my number 5 doesn't have like some kind of sentimental attachment to it. So now I'm the one who has to follow a really good story. So mine is just it's like overtime. It's scores, because let's think about it. When you're thinking of RJ making the call, that's the first one, because it's the most iconic one. It's just, who calls a goal like that? Yeah. And I love the way he drags it out, and then at the last of it, the very end of that, it's just, it's like a very aggressive R.
Here, no one will probably like this because it's a player that we all hate now, but it pretty much epitomizes what we're talking about when we talk about this. Not this. This is a commercial. Not that. That's a commercial. This one. And then this. Like, and the crazy thing is that closer to the end of his career, obviously, but still,
powerful,
fucking incredible.
And again, like the horn along with the scores call, how does it work so well together?
Along with the crowd, man.
Yeah, it just works so well in tandem to have that
crazy
blaring like sound along with his call, and neither one gives way to the other one, but it just blends perfectly.
It is so.
It's beautiful.
So good. I can't even. Yeah, that's one of, that's what I said. That is also one of my favorites. What's your number 4? Let's see what your number 4 is. We'll go for yours first.
My number 4. Now do you believe?
Oh,
love it.
These guys are good. Scary good. I don't know if I remember. I don't know if it was. It wasn't. I don't think we were on our senior trip then. I don't remember which year it was when we were on our senior trip for high school, mind you. That's how fucking long it was. That he scored that goal. I think I was at home when that goal happened. I think I remember watching it. Again, absolutely iconic call.
Yeah.
Fans everywhere love it. And it was the memory that it's painful, but the memory that brings back for me is that was the Sabres year.
Yeah.
That to me was the Sabres year to win the Stanley Cup. And the thing that kept the Sabres from winning the Stanley Cup was Jamie Key getting a fucking staph infection. Yeah. In games before Game 7 against Carolina, when everyone and their mother knew that whoever came out of the East was going to dominate whoever came out of the West. because of the teams that were remaining. And sure as shit, that's the year they won.
So he's
that's
involved in that.
Carolina won the Stanley
and
Cup.
that's the irony is that he's involved he's involved in this one too. So like, all right, so I already told you my third. So I can, and because these two are technically connected, these guys are good. Scary Good is my number 2, and that's because that Jason Pominville goal was shorthanded because Jay McKee had gotten a penalty.
Did he?
And he was in the penalty box, and he
was it because he flipped it over the glass?
Something. I can't remember what the
penalty was. It might have been the delay game.
I think it might have been delay game. So that's the irony is that he had a very big effect on these memories that we have from this specific year, because that Jason Pominville goal might not have happened if he hadn't gotten a penalty.
Yeah.
And that's what made it even more insane is that he stole the puck, went down the ice, shorthanded, and boom.
Yeah.
And then you got this iconic call from Rick Jeanneret.
Yeah, it is. Man, it's so good. The cool thing about it was the fact that if you listen to it, Pominville saw that there was it was Alfredson playing defense, and he knew that he wouldn't be able to hang with, like he wouldn't have the defensive ability to hang with him, and he made that great move around why am I thinking of his name now? And then beat Ray Emery and scores what is again an iconic goal and a crazy, crazy good play call. It's just I wish I could do this without the ads, but you know, there it is, YouTube. Here we go, real quick, for everyone's listening pleasure.
And once again, overtime.
Incredible, man.
Amazing.
Incredible. That is another absolutely iconic. I don't know if that one is one of my.
Yeah, you got. I've got one left because again I touched on the third already. So tell me what you got.
All right, my next one, my number 4, right, is one that you are involved in, by the way. Because we were there.
Oh, party in the plaza!
We were there. There's a party in the plaza.
I looked at that photo today because that was when I heard the news again. That was one of my core memories, and that's when I went.
We were in the party in the plaza.
Oh my
when the
God.
Sabres. It was the following year.
Yes.
We were in the party in the plaza, watching the game. When let's see if I can find it real quick. I won't play the whole thing. We'll move it up. Here we go. But this, to me, just because, again, of the moment, I remember it. I don't know if I was ever so, like, in public, or like in person, I would say at the game, so excited for a goal call.
Yeah.
Well, I jumped on you. I think I jumped on you.
There's this mass of people in front of this giant screen. It's dark, mind you. I
don't think it was dark yet.
I think it was dark already.
Was it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was dark. It was dark enough that it wasn't. Yeah,
wild.
It was dark, and I remember kind of looking around. I'm like, everybody is fixing. There's not barely a sound. Like it's
no
more
one's making
angst.
a sound.
If you hear sounds, it's more like. Huh?
Yeah,
it's like angst in their voice that's very subtle, but then all of a sudden,
all of a sudden, you get this. The fact that, oh man, and it was all year long. And
they had video of us, that crowd, when this happened, that they cut to. Wow.
This is the best call. 7 seconds to go. The sound inside the building was deafening. And I tell you what, there was probably about 6,000 people outside the building.
And we were in the middle of all of it.
That sound was also deafening. It was so cool to be a part of that. And that's why I think.
Listen, the video of that, like you see it's like watching a very settled sea automatically get racked by like a hurricane.
Yeah.
And then all you see is this big mass of humanity just leap to their feet. There's streamers being thrown in the air, hats being thrown in the air. Like to just watch all these people in unison at the same time as soon as that goal happens. It was, and I don't know about anybody else, but part of me was like, I almost was hesitant because I was like, oh, please let this count. Please let this count. Don't let anything
I knew
and it was like, oh my God.
I was so, but then you get it again, the iconic. In overtime, you get the Rick Jeanneret call again. As I said, it's some of his most iconic calls.
All from overtime.
Pominville smokes it off the ice. Ready? Then it came off. Awesome. That is why I have that. I believe that is my number. Actually, that fucking crazy thing. That's my number 4. That's my number 4.
The anticipation is
right.
Me. Like, if that's 4,
all right.
What is ahead of that?
We'll go to my number 3, and this is because again, I was a kid, and this call immediately brings me back to my living room with my mom and my dad sitting there watching on our little 19-inch tube TV. I don't know if it was how well it was working at the time, because at the point we did have a TV that was so bad. I told you we were broke. That was so bad that it had lines all the way down. Like we could only see half the television, but we couldn't afford a new one. So it's fucking TV we watched. You know what I mean? And it just brings me right back to that moment, sitting there and watching it. And now that I'm older, like I can fully appreciate and feel it so much more. And you will know it as soon as I say it. As soon as I type it in here. There we go. Everyone will absolutely know this one 100% if I can find it. Here, let me do this. I'll go through the top calls here because I know that they're in there. I know that it is in there 100%, but it is when Derek Plant comes in over the blue line after intercepting the puck and absolutely tees one up from just inside the blue line. Let's see. Is it this one? Tees one up from absolutely inside the blue line. Yep, sure is. And blows it by Ron Tugnut for the goal. And here is the play call. One of my absolutely favorite calls of all time. Kind of because I probably heard it so much because it was on the Sabres intro for a long time to Sabres games. But I love that call, like I said, because it just brings me back to the moment of being a kid. And it gives me goosebumps just about every time that I hear it because of the nostalgia of it. That is one of my absolute favorite calls of all time. And I think we share a similar one. I'm going to give you my number 2. but I think my number 2 might be your number 1. And that is, of course, the iconic
Top shelf where mama hides the cookies.
Yes.
I'm a cookie monster, so that is definitely my favorite call.
That is my number 2 most favorite call of Rick Jeanneret because it worked in so many situations all the time. Perfect description of a lot of these goals. Perfect.
I love it.
Absolutely iconic. It's perfect.
Cheesy in the best way possible.
It really is cheesy in the absolute best way possible for me. Top shelf where mama hides the cookies. And as you alluded to earlier, every single kid that grew up in Western New York that watched the Buffalo Sabres that ever played street hockey would scream, top shelf where mama hides the cookies. And that is something that I think, I don't know if you can pass that down. And I don't know if he could ever tell Dunleavy, this is yours now, you can use it.
Yeah.
Just because the inflection in his voice and the uniqueness is what made that so special. It was
so in correspondence with that call,
awesome. It was awesome.
They
so good.
They put up like a little memoriam for him outside.
Yeah, I saw that. I wish I could have got down there today.
A fan went down there, I think, with a box of cookies.
Oh, and put it
on top of
nice. Top
shelf. So on top shelf where mama hides the cookies, they put it on there, in memory of RJ, which is, I love that. That's so clever and unique. It was such a good idea.
Let's see. And of course, no one is going to like my number 1, which I'm going to tell you now. And it is every time RJ announced the Sabres fight or brawl, because that's why I fell in love with hockey. The fact that he was told by the NHL to stop making it sound so exciting. And he said, if you don't want me to make it exciting, don't let him do it. And just kept being him.
I love it. Yeah.
Awesome. It is one of my favorites. And it's just this is a perfect example of it. Everybody knows, and then you just hear it. You hear the perfect call from Rick Jeanneret. Holy mackerel, bring on Tyson! Because Rob Ray absolutely unloaded on Denny Vial. Oh my, it's...
Can you imagine Rick Jeanneret just walking down the street one day? He went to the market, picked up some medicine or something, and he's walking back home, and he catches a fight in the middle of the street, and he just starts making a call. Wouldn't that be amazing?
And then do you remember the station that it was on, that Sabres games were on before MSG?
Wasn't it Empire or something?
Empire Sports.
Empire Sports, yeah.
Incredible. Man, I loved Empire Sports. That was my childhood too. Sad that it obviously closed down, but happy that I got to hear, it was all local sports all the time, and it was awesome. And again, another one of these iconic calls. How can you not love that?
Oh, that's awesome.
How can you listen to that and not? I go back and watch old fights just to hear Rick Jeanneret because it still gets me pumped up. Like it still gets me pumped up for Sabres games. It would always, it always gets me going. And again, it brings me back to all of the childhood memories of why I ended up falling in love with the Sabres in the first place.
I chuckled listening to Patrick Kalena on WGR earlier because he was talking about how Lindy Ruff had told him when he's watching his film, don't watch it, with the sound off.
Yeah.
He goes, you're gonna want to watch it listening to RJ, and he says even now when he goes back and he checks out highlights on YouTube and stuff, he goes, you're sitting there and the next thing you know, you're looking at the clock and it's 1 a.m. and you're sitting on the floor doing push-ups because that's how jacked up RJ's calls would get you.
All the time.
I was like, oh man, that's a visual. That's a visual any of us can relate to.
Yeah, and like, my thing is like a lot of guys they try to downplay. I guess they try to downplay the brawls and everything like that. And like this is RJ. You know what I mean? Like, not this, of course. Yeah, it's another ad, but this is RJ. Like every aspect of the game was brought to life because of his iconic call. Here, this part.
Snow and Shields. Tugging at each other's face masks.
Yeah, and the great part about that is like I remember it so vividly because I remember the Sabres got into a brawl with the Philadelphia Flyers before that. I think it was earlier in the season, and it was Dominic Hasek fighting Garth Snow, that absolute scrub of a goalie who looked like he had indoor lacrosse pads on his fucking shoulders all the time because he was dog shit. And Garth Snow coming. The cool thing is too, because like again, I can picture it in my head. The first one was Rob Ray fighting, of course, Rob Ray fighting along the boards, whatever. And then all of a sudden, Garth Snow just jumps into melee for no fucking reason at all. It's not anywhere near him. He just decides, fuck it, I'm gonna get into it too. Jumps into it too and starts punching Rob Ray. And all you hear is, and here comes Hasek. And then just the behind of Hasek just flying down the ice like no hesitation given by the greatest goaltender of all time. No fucks given if he's going to get hurt, nothing. He's going to be there for his guys, and he's going to fight a guy who's way out of his weight class. And Garth Snow, he didn't care. He goes and fights, but that's what the Steve Shields thing comes in. Steve Shields, 6'4", 210 pounds at the time.
He said, "Fuck this guy."
That's quite literally what happened. Is the Sabres put him in because they go, there might be another one of these happening. They put Steve Shields in, and sure as shit, everything goes down, and Steve Shields goes, my time to shine, boys.
This is why they put me in tonight.
Flies down the ice, and then they break him up early, and Rob Ray throws. The cool thing about it is Rob Ray takes the guy, and Rob Ray's 6 foot 220, takes Kordic, who's 6'6", 240, and just chucks him on the ice like a fucking sack of potatoes. And then again, you get this iconic call from Rob Ray talking about the goalies.
You're not going to be able to. That's not even the end of it. This fight is so iconic because even the coaches got into it.
No, that wasn't this one.
That was the Ottawa.
That was Ottawa.
That was Ottawa.
I'll play that one next. But
I remember that one because I love that the Ottawa head coach was standing.
Yeah. Well, Lindy Ruff tried to stand, but he fell through the fucking door.
Oh my god. I love how they played it off like, oh, Lindy Ruff is so mad he's trying to get to him.
Oh, he was. They were going to stand there and scream at each other.
Yeah.
Both of those guys.
But like you're watching a
crap, dude.
Like the Ottawa head coach looks so tiny, and you see him standing on top of the boards, just yelling down at Lindy Ruff. Oh my god, I love all of it. And that's exactly what you're saying is missing from the sport.
Oh, 100%.
Is that kind of excitement?
It was so cool, the animosity between the teams.
Yeah.
Back then, like when you played a rivalry game, right? It fucking meant something. It didn't matter where they were in the standings, where you were in the standings. When you played Philadelphia, when you played Toronto, when you played fucking Ottawa, it didn't matter. Those were must-see TV games. You always made sure you took time to go watch those games. And the reason why there was so much hatred, and it's a little bit on the NHL. It's not necessarily just the fighting aspect, because there were big hits and lots of goals, and the fans hated each other, and all that was great. But what created so much animosity was the fact that back when they played each other in the divisions, they played their division opponents 8 fucking times each year, and then they would probably meet them in the playoffs if they all made it, and they would play them that many more times, at least another 4 times in the playoffs. So it made these games, the more you play another team, the more you get to know them, the more dirty shit might happen, the more you start to hate them. You know what I mean?
The storylines
build up, and just everything gets going. And that is what makes compelling television for everyone. Yeah. As we have seen now, conflict sells. Conflict sells, right? Yeah. Conflict sells. They always talk about conflict, right? Oh, Mahomes versus Allen. It sells because it's me versus him. Who's better? Is he going to get over the hill? Is he finally going to beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? Is Mahomes going to continue to be a fucking alien and just keep winning everything because he's incredible? Like, it sells, man. It just does. You create rivalries and they sell better. The cool thing about the NHL was the players could absolutely
let loose. They can let loose.
Let loose, man. Yeah, and they can settle it on the ice. There was no like, oh, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. Oh, you're a bitch. No, you're a bitch. All right, cool. If I'm a bitch, show me.
Yeah.
If I'm a bitch, show me. And sometimes you were a bitch and you beat you up. And sometimes you beat him up. And it was great. And you know what? A lot of these guys, what most people don't know, if you haven't watched, go watch Ice Guardians. One of the best documentaries in hockey I've ever watched. It's probably in my top 3. I watched it, 15 times all the way through. I watch it usually whenever I'm a little bored and I'm like, all right, well, let's throw on Ice Guardians. I watch it again because it's so good, because it explains very well. People think that, like, sometimes, especially as it evolved more, that these guys were just the meanest, baddest mofos that you could find, right? And on the ice, they were, right? Off the ice, who's done more for the Buffalo community than Rob Ray?
Yeah.
He still does it. I don't know if people know that. Rob Ray still does it on Christmas Eve. He gets together with the Sabres organization and delivers gifts to kids all the time. Rob Ray I don't remember him getting a lot of press, would go to Children's Hospital all the time and just visit with the kids. Fuck the press. That wasn't his thing. Yeah. He was just a nice guy. Just a good dude. And same thing with a lot of fighters. A lot of guys, like, they could flip the switch.
That's where the outlet
bad motherfuckers, and then
the outlet was
off the ice.
The outlet was on the ice. They
were, what I mean?
They were your normal, typical guy outside of the arena. But when you strapped on the skates,
not even normal, typical guy, like good guy, like better than the average guy. You know what I mean? Better than the average Joe Schmo who scored 50 goals. He might do a little here or there, but he's a superstar.
Oh no,
right?
I'm saying like they're like, you would assume that like they'd almost carry this kind of aggression all the time. Like,
right, like you have to.
Like they're cavemen. But it was like you said, there's a switch when you strap on the skates and you step foot on the ice. It's a different. You're a different person almost. Because again, competitive juices get flowing. The stakes are high, and again, you defend your guys, your brothers, the ones you're out there playing with, the ones that because hockey
you go to war with, man. You play 82 games.
That's what I mean. Hockey's one of those, like, it's a conditioned sport. Like it's grueling. Not only
the regular season is grueling, the playoffs are grueling.
That you have to do this 80+ nights and then playoffs. And the playoffs are multiple games too. It's not like it's a win and you keep going.
And not even that, but it's like the playoffs are even more grueling than the regular season in the fact that they let a lot more shit go.
Yeah.
And it's so much more physical, usually. It's so much more like we're just going to let the boys play. It's so much more intense.
Yeah.
Dude, it's playoff hockey for me is my fucking favorite. Because, again, it's a little bit of the taste of that old school hockey. It brings back the rivalry. You got to play these same guys. Sometimes, every other day for at least a week, 2 weeks. Sometimes, depending on how many games you play, you develop a rivalry. You develop a hatred for the other team. And it sells because it's fun to watch. Even if you're not a fan of the team, you watch because it's fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's just you want to see what happens. Like, what's going to happen now? Is there going to be a line brawl? Are the coaches going to fist fight? Like, you know what I mean? It's compelling television. And that's why I always loved watching it. And do you remember where you were when the 08 brawl happened?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch a ton of hockey when I was younger. So, like, a lot of these moments I didn't see live. Like, I caught them later.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, while everyone else was like, their juices were still flowing from that moment, like, I got to live it fresh afterwards and again and again.
Yeah.
So, I just, when I would watch this shit, I was like, I can't believe this happens. Because, again, I was a football guy, and
like, that's the thing. That's what a lot of, like, if you watch reaction videos online like I do sometimes, I love watching people who are like, NBA fan reacts to NHL, and then all of a sudden you watch and they're like, God damn, this is what hockey is? You go, I fucking told you, man. It's intense.
Yeah.
And
where the NBA is you sneeze on a guy and it's a flagrant foul.
Right, and you're like,
wow, this is so far the opposite of that.
You know what I mean? And then you watch even football, a lot of football guys are like, damn, I didn't know they hit all like that. And you go like, you got to watch the fucking games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't happen every second of every game. Like, there's a potential for a big hit literally every single play in football.
And the play doesn't stop.
Where
in football, a
collision
like that happens.
Right.
Yeah. Like, it might stop because somebody took offense and went after somebody.
Fighting,
but other than that, like, shit's still going on around you too. So it's an insane sport. I love it because it's that fast. But like, I love and appreciate it because it's the opposite of what I enjoy about football.
Right.
So for me to go to a live game too, like, it's that fast pace, especially now because everyone's so much smaller and faster that it's like a circus to watch these guys go.
Not even sometimes smaller and faster, but bigger and faster.
Yeah.
Like, Tage Thompson's fucking 6'6". It skates like the wind, man. It's crazy. The talent level has gone up tremendously, obviously, which in part is why fighting has gone down. That mixed with some of the rule changes, which I'm not a huge fan of. And that's why I love guys like Rob Ray, who, of course, he's going to vouch for the older style of hockey. He loves, when guys get into it. Because the thing is, when you get in situations like that, like a brawl, right? Or whatever, it brings everyone together.
Yep.
Okay? It brings everyone together. No matter what, you could hate the guy next to you, right? Mm-hmm. I didn't play hockey at a high level or anything, or at really any level, but when I got older and I started playing hockey, right, there were guys that I didn't like on my team at all. And guess what? If he got punched, I would fuck that other team up for punching my dude. Don't you dare. Mm-hmm. And that, you know what I mean? Like, it just brings guys closer together.
Well, what it does for the team, it's a momentum shift. Sometimes fights would start to switch the momentum. If you felt like your team was falling behind and they were kind of lagging and there wasn't enough, they didn't have enough juice to keep up,
right?
You'd start a fight, build up some of that hype again, get the blood flowing. You know what I mean? And it's funny to think of it that way, like, because
people don't think like that, but it does.
It's a momentum shift.
Well, I'd say think about it like this, right? For anybody who doesn't think like that, it can do that. Think about, like, let's say these guys are your friends, because most of the guys on the teams you're going to play for are your friends. Have you ever watched your friend get into a fight? Have you ever seen your friend? Have you ever seen your friend get into an argument at a bar that was almost a fight? How jacked up are you for the next, I don't know, half hour?
Yeah.
Thinking about it?
Yeah.
Thinking about how you and your buddy were going to fucking throw down with whoever else? Like, think about that. But just in hockey, like during a game. You were there for each other. The intensity just skyrocketed.
That adrenaline hit could be the difference between you making a play that's a difference in the game or you falling behind and not getting to the spot.
You taking that extra step to block that shot.
Yeah. You fight through the exhaustion, you fight through the pain, and it's because you got that.
Well, it's because your brother over there is like, well, if this guy can get punched in the face for me, fuck yeah, I can block a shot for him.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, I can do that. You know what I mean? And it's like I said, it's plays like this where obviously we all know this happened right after our captain got blindsided by an enforcer. And the Sabres just responded like this. They went after their star player, so we're coming after yours. And I got to say this, man, if by chance Marty Biron ever, for whatever reason, gets a chance to listen to this, I got to tell you, kudos to you, good sir, for understanding the moment, and knowing what you needed to do and not hesitating to do it.
And it feels so out of character for him.
Because you know... Yeah. Because anyone who's ever watched it knows that Ray Emery, he would actually fight people in the AHL as a goalie, take his shit off and fight people. You know, and he was a trained boxer, by the way.
Yeah.
He knew that he was outclassed, outmatched, outweighed. Mm-hmm. He was tall, like Ray. I don't know if Ray Emery was taller, but he was overall bigger than Marty Biron. Better fighter. Wasn't a better goalie. Marty Biron was a way better goalie. But Ray Emery, rest in peace, was easily, he could have been an enforcer in the NHL, but he was a goalie. And he didn't fucking hesitate, understood the moment, understood what was at stake, and just said,
let's go.
Regardless, I'm here for you guys. I'm coming down and I'm going to take on one of the toughest SOBs.
Marty Biron is probably one of the most nicest. He's one of the nicest dudes.
Kudos to you. That took balls.
That's so out of character for him.
And it was awesome.
And that's what can pump you up is that you see a guy like that you know that that's not his forte. That's not what he's known for.
Right.
And it's also like him as a person, his personality, his character, like that's not who he is. No. So that he's like, we're gonna do this.
He does shit talk quite a bit.
Oh yeah, but it's like it's like your dad shit talking you. It's that kind of thing. Like him, he's just you don't look at him. He's unassuming.
One of my favorite.
He's very unassuming.
Yeah, one of my favorite Marty Biron moments, outside of that one save, with Rick Jeanneret call, is when he's I think he's backing up Miller. He's on the bench, and one of the Stahl brothers trips over the blue line, so to speak. And he just leans over to him and is like, hey, Starley, what happened there? What happened there? You fall over the blue line? Oh, you can stay on your feet. You're a big boy. What the fuck happened there? And I was like, that shit is fucking gold, man. Yeah. I love it. And that's like I said, that's the stuff I would pay the NHL extra money. I really would. Especially and players need to the NHL would need to sign like a you can't get in trouble type thing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? To release all of this, all the actual shit talk of what happened, because that's some the chirping between the guys is some of the funniest shit. Yeah, it's so awesome to hear back and forth.
You catch more of it because you've trained yourself to read the lips.
Watching hockey, I've trained myself. Yeah. It's wild.
It's wild because
I trained myself to read
there are times where he'll call it. Like he's watching the fight in real time and he's like, oh, this is what he said. Yeah. And then there are times a few minutes later, they'll actually say, oh, he told him this, this, and this. And you're like, that's insane that you can tell what he said, almost word for word.
It's weird because I can't do it in person, but when I'm watching a game on TV, if they zoom in on a face, given the moment, Like I can get pretty clearly like a good little bit about what they're saying.
Yeah.
Just because, again, watching hockey so long, in certain moments, I for whatever reason, like I've just been like, oh, I know what you said to that guy, and then I'll tell you, and they're like, really? That's what I'm like. If you want to rewind it, I'll show you. But or at least something pretty close to.
This is why they don't like up hockey players.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's just great. This is kind of why already. This is the part that you alluded to earlier about the coaches.
Yeah.
And they're between Murray and Lindy Ruff.
And he tells Rob Ray to turn the mics off.
You might want to kill the mics down there, fellas. And Ray's just holding the microphone. But this is why the whole thing started. You'll hear Lindy Ruff clearly. Ready? Right? You heard that one. Go after Peters. Go after Peters. You don't go after our fucking captain. Oh, man. Like, yeah, hockey, man.
Yeah.
I love it. That's why I love hockey. That's why I'm so stoked about hockey. That's, again, that's the shit that I grew up on. That's why I love it. That was a little bit of old school.
And this is what Rick Jeanneret does.
Right. And he just brings it on.
This show was about Rick Jeanneret, and it took us into why we love hockey.
Right. But that's the passion, the way he announces, everything about it is why I love hockey. Is a giant reason why myself and probably a lot of other people my age love hockey, because we grew up watching him on television. Like when Ted Darling died, and RJ took over for him on the TV broadcast, because Darling did the TV and Jeanneret did the radio. Then RJ ended up doing both. When he did that, it was kind of like right when I became a hockey fan, right? It was right around then is when I became really remember becoming a hockey fan. And he's the only voice I ever really listened to. Again, the last couple seasons, Del Levy had split time with them, so it kind of gave you a little taste of what you're going to get when RJ decided that it was finally time to hang it up. And it was just, it was awesome to be able to go on that ride with him. You know what I mean? Like it's sad that it's over, but I'm glad that it happened.
I'm glad that it happened.
You know what I mean? That's kind of the way. Again, that's just kind of the reason why I love hockey so much is Rick Jeanneret, the passion, the enthusiasm, the personality, the way he called games, the lines that he came up with, the iconic lines that he came up with, the fact that he transcended not only this organization, not only the city, not only the sport, but he transcended across all sports. Any announcer that wants to be that good or that wants to do something like that, like he's special.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's special. And no matter what, you felt like you knew him. He came through the television screen and he made you feel, you felt like you knew him all the time. And kind of in wrapping this whole thing up a little bit, I said, though he's never put on the skates and pads or played a single minute for the Buffalo Sabres, he is the most important person in the Buffalo Sabres organization. And I don't think anyone can really argue that. There has never been a person. What other announcer can you say that about? That he is the most important person across an multiple generations and in an organization. And in the great words of Rick Jeanneret, from my lips to your ears, thanks for listening. And we love you, RJ.